Hey everyone, this is Stephen Strong at Cast Iron Cookware, where you can find information to help you better collect, restore, and use cast iron cookware. Today I'm going to be sharing my collection of number 3 cast iron skillets, and I'm going to be doing that coming right up. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's purchased my product, Easy Beezy Cast Iron Seasoning. The purchase of this product helps keep this channel going, and I just want to say thank you so very much. Now, let's get on into our video. Now, if you notice the thumbnail to this video, I have a few pieces of number 3 cast iron, and I'm just going to kind of run down some of those really quickly. So I'm going to start off with the Birmingham stove and range pieces, and then I'll go ahead and share some of the other ones. First up is my Red Mountain number 3, and this one here has a hand scribed number 3, and it is offset if you look at it straight ahead. This one right here is sort of an oddball piece. Now I have another Red Mountain piece that has the smaller pour spouts, and the number is a 3B, slightly off center as well, the two of them together. And one way to tell the Birmingham stove and range pieces, the skillets anyway, they have this telltale ridge on the bottom of the handle, plus the teardrop shaped hanger hole. Plus we have the inset heat ring. You will not see an outer heat ring on the Birmingham stove and range. This first piece is kind of odd. It's a little bit larger in size than the other Red Mountain series, and the pour spouts are way wider than these. I believe because it is hand scribed, it's going to be an older piece, maybe even before the decision was made on an exact mold size. I've also even heard these referred to as stove spiders. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the stove spiders. If you have any information on those, please leave a comment in the comment section. Now, I also have a number 3 S from the Red Mountain series, and it has the large pour spouts as well. Now, this one is a 3S. You can tell by the marks. There was a series called the S series. There was a 3S, a 5S, and a 7S as a set, and these were a little bit smaller than the numbers that they correspond to. I also have a smooth bottom piece. Now this one doesn't have a number on it, but you'll find these with the Birmingham font size on the bottom, but as far as I know, they are not considered Birmingham stove and range. Now this one here might even be a copy of a Birmingham stove and range, or a copy of the smooth bottom supposed Birmingham stove and range piece. Not been proven to be Birmingham stove and range. But here's a smooth bottom, and it looks a lot like a Red Mountain series with the large pour spouts. Very defined ridge, but it has no outer heat ring at all. So up until this point, this is not believed to be Birmingham stove and range, but I thought I would go ahead and add it with my collection. Another piece that is Birmingham stove and range, a number 3, is the Pittypats Porch piece. This was made for Pittypats Porch in Georgia, the restaurant. If you can see the lettering, it's kind of hard to see. Now we have the telltale ridge, the teardrop hanger hole, outer heat ring. This is definitely Birmingham stove and range. This was made for Pittypats Porch. Now I have another one that has a little bit better lettering. So continuing on with the Century series, we have the Century series number 3, Birmingham stove and range. And if you notice with the Century series, the font is going to be really descriptive. We have the NO.3 for number 3, and we also have the size. And this one here is, I believe, 6 5/8 inch. Of course, we still have the ridge and the teardrop, outer heat ring, all the telltale signs of Birmingham stove and range. This one here has been milled. We were speaking about mill marks. You can kind of see the swirls. That was factory milled. Later on, they quit doing this on their pieces to, I suppose, cut down the cost. And this one here also has the ridge that you'd see on Century pieces. And continuing on with the Birmingham Stove and Range number 3s, here is an oddball. This is the same size as the number 3, but this is actually a cornbread skillet. They make an 8 wedge, and that was their flagship cornbread skillet. And it was made in 1968, and they produced it in 1968 and early 1969 with the patent pending. And then later on, they had the Made in USA. So at the same time, they come out with the 6 wedge. Since we're talking about 3s, I'd throw that one in there. We're going to take a step back and look at our Century series. Now, this one doesn't have Made in USA at the top. In the 1960s, late 1960s, probably 1969, they started putting Made in USA across the top of the bottom of their skillets. And that will be later Birmingham Stove and Range. So they had the Red Mountain, which went from the 1930s all the way up until the 1950s. Changed over to Century. They had the descriptive font size on the bottom. And in the late 1960s, probably 1969, they started putting the Made in USA on the skillets. Now, I will say this, if they still had molds in operation that did not have the Made in USA, I'm sure they were still using them because molds were not cheap. So, continuing on with our number 3 Birmingham Stove and Range. Now, technically, this doesn't say number 3, it says number 6. But it is the same thing as a number 3 in size. And this is from the Lady Bess series. And let's get a closer look at the bottom. Right here, we have Made in USA across the top, like we would have had for most of the pieces produced after 1969. And it has number 6, and I think a W maybe for wide. And it has skillet, and then it has 60H-1. And this is from the Lady Bess series. Now, it doesn't have pour spouts. It's completely round. It does not have an outer heat ring. It just has a flat bottom, no groove, but there is like a little ridge around the edge. And it also has this little kind of transition going into the round part of the handle. Has a wood handle and looks like a steel eye bolt that screws on the handle. This was produced in 1976 to celebrate the 1976 bicentennial of the United States. I believe they continued on all the way up until they went out of business. And they also came out with a Cambrio handle there for a little bit, and that's like a porcelain type, really hard handle. And this was made for people on the West Coast was really, into the white. So for a limited time, they made the Cambrio handles. Kind of hard to find, a little more on the rarer side of the Lady Bess. We also have one more unknown Birmingham Stove and Range. Now here is what a lot of people call the Mercedes pan. This is a Birmingham Stove and Range, and I'm going to use the word style. It's got the ridge, it's got the teardrop hanger hole, the outer heat ring. It even has the Century Series font. That's exactly the same as the Century Series font. The size and everything is the same. But I will note that the outer heat ring and the Mercedes is a lot taller than the normal heat ring. And we also have the ridge around the edge, just like the Century. Now, it is not believed that these are Birmingham Stove and Range. Until we have a catalog or some kind of definitive proof, most people are saying that they are not Birmingham Stove and Range. But the Birmingham Stove and Range collectors are keeping these. And I myself only have the 3. I would like to have one of all the rest of them as well. because I believe one day there will be a catalog that will come out and say Birmingham Stove and Range Mercedes. And I do believe that the reason for the Mercedes, and there's a lot of speculation, is whenever they went from the cast iron stoves to the electric stoves had the little coil element on top, and this Mercedes style helped them sit smoother on the top without them kind of falling in the cracks. So it kept them level. So I believe that was the purpose of the Mercedes skillets that you'll see not just in Birmingham Stove and Range, but also in other makers. So not Birmingham Stove and Range, we think. Maybe one day there'll be proof. So that's the end of the Birmingham Stove and Range section of my number 3s. We also have Lodge. Now I have a little number 3 Lodge right here. Now this one right here actually has 3 notches. We have one at 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And this one here looks like a hand-scribed 3. Get it right there in the light. And the handles are very similar to Birmingham Stove and Range with a teardrop style. A little more of a slimmer style, no ridge, smooth on the bottom. And this is a Lodge, and notice right here, this one even has a couple of numbers here on the bottom. There's a 6 and even a tiny little number 1 right there. And it looks like there's even a J above the 6 and a couple of little numbers that you can't see. The seasoning is kind of filled it in right there on the top. And then we have a single notch Lodge. Here's one that is a hammered piece, and it's got 1 notch at 12 o'clock. There's not one over here at 3 or 9. This one has the hammered design on the top of the handle, the bottom of the handle, and around the edge of the bottom, but not the bottom. We have a smooth bottom. We have another 3-notch Lodge that's a little bit newer. We have it at 3, 12, and 9 o'clock. We also have SK for skillet right here. We also have a little number 3. Instead of the 3 digit marks, we actually have a 3 and have a D here at the top. That's probably a mold mark of some kind. And in my number 3s, I only have one Griswold. Now here's a Griswold number 3. This is a small block logo. Now if this had been a large logo, it would have been huge. It would have covered up a lot of the pan. It would have been much larger than this little small logo in the middle. And it's a Griswold number 3. And that's pretty much what it looks like. I'll leave the date on here as well. This is a little bit of a newer Griswold. You can tell by the way the handle is made right here. So we have another one that is made by Griswold. This is my little number 3, Iron Mountain. That it is unmarked. Well, I say unmarked. It doesn't have the Griswold name on it, but it has this big, wide handle that is indicative of Red Mountain, and it has a little bit of a ridge on the back. This one right here is a 1031, and it says number 3. All the Red Mountains will have a number. Even the Dutch ovens will have a number. I have one Canadian number 3, and it is a GSW. General Steelwares, I believe. And this here's number 3, made in Canada, fry pan, number 3. Here's a good look at the handle on the inside. It has a little bit of a, some space down in there. So when you pick it up, it doesn't feel bad on your hand, but it does have an opening there at the bottom. A nice little piece right here. Now I have one more to show, and it looks like a Vollrath, but it's not. It's got the same shape as a Vollrath. The outer heat ring but it doesn't have a number on the bottom. And what I'm understanding is the way to tell a copy of a Vollrath from an actual Vollrath, if there's a sideways number on the bottom of the pan, then it will be a Vollrath. But these were commonly copied. I don't really know, I guess because they were small. Here's another one, pretty much the same thing. There's no number on the bottom, and it would be sideways. It wouldn't be on the bottom or on the top. It would be on the side, so you'd read it in this direction. So it does have a 3 on the top. I have 2 of these little skillets right here, and they serve a great purpose. Maybe I'll actually get my hands on a real Vollrath. They're not really expensive. I don't believe they copied them because they were hard to find. I believe they were just easy to copy. A lot of foundries out there were making pieces and just trying to make a living. So I think that might have been something to do with it. Not so much trying to counterfeit something that was worth a lot of money. But that's my number 3s. I will say this, a lot of people say, what do you use the number 3 for? Me personally, I like the number 3s for individual pizzas, individual pot pies. You can also make an individual dump cake or a cobbler. So if you have somebody that likes a cherry pie and somebody likes apple pie, you can make 2 or 3 apple pies, 2 or 3 cherry pies, and let everybody pick the one they want. Pot pies are really good for these here, or even a single egg skillet. But I think originally they were designed for small servings, one for some green beans, another one for corn. Now I think whenever you bought turnip greens at Pittypats Porch, they just brought the skillet out with your individual size of turnip greens, or maybe for the whole table. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll do my best to keep more coming. I have been a little bit slack between my day job and my side hustle and things I've got to do to keep the house going. I just hardly have time to get them out there. So I apologize for being slack getting the videos out there, but I will keep them coming, even though there might be a gap or so between them. And I just want to say thank you again for watching Cast Iron Cookware. Before you go, I just want to share something with you really quickly. In Psalms chapter 1, verse 1 through 3, it says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not after the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." I just want to say, share the word and be a blessing.